Ladies and gentlemen, hope all is well. A lot of people say that as an entrepreneur, you need skills. You need to know how to do Facebook ads. You need to know how to do these day trading, these options trading, all of this fucking very intense, skill-oriented things. But in my perspective, I think that being an entrepreneur is 90% about your mindset. And in today's video, what I'm gonna be talking about is the one thing that I've noticed in terms of mindset that's the most important thing as an entrepreneur. Because you can have all the skills in the world, you can have the sharpest knife, you can have the fastest shooting gun, but if you don't have someone who knows how to shoot that gun or knows how to slash that knife, then those really good tools will remain pointless. And I honestly think that, like I said, that's 90% of the battle, right? So one of my mentors, Sam Ovens, once said, it's the people who are really good at balancing, right, the mindfulness and the hardcoreness of business. So like, for example, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll exist on either or ends of the spectrum. So for example, people who are only involved in business, like I just do business all day, I work all day. Those are one type of people. Another types of people are people who are like, I go to yoga retreats and I meditate all fucking day. I am fully focused on my mindset. There's those people who are like fully just like mindset gurus, and those people get fucking nowhere, right? So it's like, you can be a business person, right, who is just purely focused on business and not mindset stuff. Or you can be a mindset person who's purely focused on mindset bullshit, and those two types of people won't really actually achieve much. That person focused on skill set, that business-oriented stuff, and that person focused on mindset, it's dualities on the opposite ends of the bell curve, and they don't actually get anywhere, right? So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about the one thing more oriented towards mindset, more oriented towards business mindset that you're gonna need, and that I've noticed in my life as an entrepreneur. So what I kind of noticed is, as an entrepreneur in my journey with my company, what happens is I will go on kind of a spree. So for example, when I moved into my new house, pretty much what happened was for the first few months, I signed a bunch of new clients, and I had like almost pretty much a record month. And I was really happy about that month because, you know, everything was really good. I was making the most I've kind of ever made, and I was pretty happy. So what I did is I started to kind of take my foot off the pedal off the gas, and I was just like relaxing in a sense. Like I was doing work, but I was like not too stressed. I was like, I can watch a movie here, scroll on TikTok here, whatever, right? And then what happened is that was September. Next month rolls around, don't have much progress. Month after that rolls around, don't have much progress. And I remember a week after, I kind of snapped out of it. I was like, hey, shit, I have to do work now. I have to do work. And I put my head down and just worked for 2 months. And I was making money, yes, but I was in a dry spell. And I mean, this was the driest of dry spells. I went 2 months without signing a new client. Yes, I did have like monthly recurring from past clients, but going from a month where you signed like 7 new clients in 1 month, in like literally 3.5 weeks, I signed 7 new clients. I signed just under 10 clients in like a month, to 0 in 2. It was kind of like, holy shit, what's going on, right? So during those 2 months, I remember being in a divot. I was spending less on groceries. I was like conserving money for gas. And I wasn't even like in much of a pickle financially, just mentally, I was kind of like, shit, what's going on here? Things aren't as predictable as they seem. And kind of during that tro, I remember being kind of like mentally, I want to say maybe a little bit, I don't want to say depressed, but I was like kind of like anxious, kind of depressed potentially. And I was like moody because I was like, fuck, I'm doing all this work and nothing's coming out of it, right? But pretty much what happened is just before I started to kind of go up into that next level, I started to tell myself, I was like, okay, come on, we got to start picking up. I set a goal. And as soon as I set that goal, the week after I ended up hitting it. So what happens in this cycle, and this cycle has happened multiple times, where sign a lot of clients, get a lot of money, collect a shit ton of cash, go in a dry spout, realize that that dry spout is self-induced and that's based on your mentality, set a goal, do something to get out of that dry spout, and then have another record month, right? So I realized this, and pretty much what I did is I kind of put together an SOP for myself, a standard operating procedure of what happens during each stage. And I'm gonna show you this on my laptop. So I'm in front of my laptop right here. I'm gonna show you this. So this is kind of this is a Miro board. And this is kind of mimicking what life was like, right? We have the ups where it's like, okay, it's your record month, whatever, you hit a few 5 figures, whatever, cool. And then this is like 2 months dry spell, right? And kind of what was happening is like, okay, what do I do here? What do I do just before I go up so that I can, you know, that allows me to rise? Like, how do I just stay up here? How is that possible? How do I just stay up here? That's kind of what I was realizing. And kind of what I realized is if you have confidence during this low peak, that makes you as a business person, right? So a lot of people, what happens is, for example, they have a win, even just outside of business. They get a girlfriend. They, you know, make a lot of money. They sign a new client. They take a girl out and kiss her. I don't know. And they feel confident. They're like, yes, I'm fucking winning. Awesome, all right? And then what happens is here at the bottom, when they're not getting much success, no business, no girls, whatever, they feel sad and lonely and unconfident. And honestly, from my perspective, as a business owner, if you want to maintain this, you have to act like you act up here, down here. It's really simple. So what I've been doing is literally when I have a low period, hypothetically, girl rejects me, whatever, client doesn't re-sign, whatever, I don't make a lot of money, I go through a dry spell, whatever, it doesn't freaking matter because I am as confident as ever during those troughs, during the low times, just as I am in the high, that I'm going to get back to that high and I'm going to surpass that high. The only reason you aren't confident during those times is because you think that money is not going to come back and you're like doomed now. You're never going to make another cent. If you were confident in your abilities, you would just be like, cool, like I get it, it's a dry spell, but eventually I'm going to get out of this dry spell, right? So as a man, if you're watching this, you're most likely a man. As a man, you have to find solace. You have to find an inner sense of confidence that you can tap into during these low times and lean into so that when you're in these low times, you can use this confidence to get back to this quote unquote high times. For example, today is the 21st of December. About a week and a half ago, I was in a quote unquote low time. I started the month, end of November, I signed a bunch of new clients. It was really good, had a really good month. And then I went like 2-3 weeks not signing a client. Things were feeling slow. I was feeling slow mentally. But I remember I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this happen again. I kept the confidence. I kept telling myself something amazing is about to happen. I'm gonna sign that next new client. That next new meeting's around the corner. I got my shit down on paper. I set my goal. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hit this number this month. And then last few days, I have literally been making, like the last few days, I've made just over half of what I need to hit in order to make my goal. So, and my goal is upwards of 5 figures. So this is literally just keeping your confidence during your peak is pretty much an entrepreneur. Because what happens, this is like a very high level lesson. A lot of you are not going to get this because a lot of you are like maybe watching or in a job or in school or whatever. But if you have a job, this is your life, right? It's like paycheck, 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 paycheck. Consistency. This is your life. It's like a linear graph, right? Linear graph. You can draw a little triangle. It's just like time, money. Boring. The more you work, the more money you get. It's fucking linear, right? And it's just like, you're not going to have a peak, you're not going to have a trough, right? But as an entrepreneur, it is literally like this, right? So this is an exponential graph. But if you zoom in on each of these, it's like this. It's like mini ups and downs. You know what I mean, right? Little sinusoidal graphs on that exponential curve, right? And this is kind of what I've noticed. So if you want to, you know, just like have that time to money correlation, that is your job. That's your life. That's fine. That's fun. Whatever. You're not going to go through ups and downs. You're just going to kind of just be the same, have that middle lifestyle. That's fine. But if you're living an entrepreneur life and you have kind of a business or whatever, you're going to experience those lows and you're going to experience those highs. And as an entrepreneur, the TRO, so for example, the TRO, which is this, forms the peak. So what I've found is the deeper the TRO, if you realize you're like, oh shit, 2-month streak, no money, that means that TRO is going to balance out even higher. So like, let's say you haven't made a lot of money. Let's say you've been trying to get clients for 6 months and you haven't gotten clients. It took me 6 months to find my first client, right? Those 6 months of that TRO, low confidence, form the peak. I signed like a bunch of clients in like my first month. Hit the first client, next client came right after, boom, 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 made a bunch of money, right? So if you, this is a job, boring, right? You just make money. You're not too happy, you're not too sad. It's just kind of in the middle. As an entrepreneur, you're happy and sad. You're kind of all over the place, maybe a little bit of ADHD. But you're pretty much, your peak is forming the TRO and your TRO is forming the peak. It's kind of like a duality. It's like yin yang, right? So that's kind of the way I see it. I just kind of like it this way. This is very appealing to me because like, even though those TROs kind of suck, it is so worth it when you hit 3-4 deals in a row and you just have a stellar week. That feeling is so unmatched. I hate that feeling of like, oh, it's like, oh, same thing happening at the predicted time every single month. I just find that so boring. So, and you're not really gonna get rich with that. So this is kind of my mentality with it. This is the mentality of business. You have to kind of just understand the cycles that you exist in within business and that you're kind of in always duality of an up and a down, up and a down, up and a down. And if you kind of can learn to assess that and be cognizant of that, you're going to be unbeatable as an entrepreneur and you're just going to have a pretty simple time. So if you enjoyed the video, if you thought this was helpful, leave a thumbs up. Very raw video, no edits. I'm not going to edit this video at all. Raw, sitting on the couch here. I got some like a little workstation over there, Christmas tree. I'm going home tomorrow. I am going back to the house in Toronto tomorrow. Right now we are not in Toronto, so I'm going home and gonna see the family, gonna celebrate Christmas. So yeah, that's pretty much it.